topic that is needed to be discussed under human physiology is the defense against infectious disease. So it does not, this subtopic does not only, it's not only limited to the functions of the white blood cells, but the totality of how the body is defending itself from infectious diseases. So this also includes how the skin is protecting against potential bacterium or potential pathogens that can attack the body, or it's also including the mucous membranes that is actually producing certain substances that traps potential pathogens as well. Okay, so this area, okay, just like in the previous subtopics, we need to discuss the importance, okay, of the system, because basically this is an introduction to immune system, and this subtopic is present in the extended portion, which is only available. This only need to be learned by HL students. So for the defense, so once we have already discussed the importance, then we need to discuss the differences, or the how we define. And we have to discuss what a pathogen is. Okay, a pathogen, a host, okay, and of course having a disease. Okay, sometimes, I also include the difference between communicable and non-communicable, but I think it's not that important in this area. It's not required by ID. So so right after introducing what these terms mean, then we can now move on to the use of antibiotics. Antibiotics are actually, of course, we already know it's already a medicine, but antibiotics are derived from bacterium. And bacterium, in a sense that they're also capable of being a pathogen. And there are certain species of bacterium that produces this resistant gene, wherein it prevents the bacterium from being affected by an antibiotic. So, or any enzyme that can actually kill it. Okay, so we have to discuss what an antibiotic is, how an antibiotic is affecting the bacterium, and we have to make it clear, or we have to reiterate to our students that antibiotics is only applicable, or is only working for living organisms that can that actually harming the body. It's not going to work for viruses, because viruses, they are considered as non-living things, and they cannot have their own metabolism. So if the body is being affected by a virus, and we are using antibiotics, then it can actually attack the body cells, the healthy body cells. Okay, so we have to include the effect of antibiotics to cells as well, okay, and to bacteria as well. Okay, so we have to include how bacterium is also capable of reproducing, and how the antibiotic is able to stop or prevent a specific stage or a specific step in the production or in the division of this bacterium. So right after discussing the use of, or the function of antibiotics, we have to discuss the other line of defenses. Okay, in that sense, we have to include how the skin is able to become, a line of defense wherein, okay, it is, since the skin is impermeable, it's made up of thick layers of keratinized epithelial cells, then in that sense it makes the epithelial cells dead. Therefore, it cannot be impregnated by any pathogen. Okay, so we have to include how the mucous membrane is also working. Okay, just like the skin, but this time, okay, this is only occurring in the ventilation system, okay, wherein the mucous membranes produce mucus. And a part of it, some of the cells in the mucous membrane also include ciliated cells. So the ciliated cells, the cilia of the ciliated cells it keeps on moving. Therefore, it actually moves the cilia. It moves the mucus that is being produced by goblet cells, which traps the foreign matter that has managed to enter the body. Okay. So we can also include the acid that is being produced in the stomach. Okay, and last but not the least, we have to include the leukocytes, or the white blood cells. Okay, so the white blood cells, they are the one of the blood cells that is being used for defense. So we have to indicate that leukocytes has two different kinds. We have the phagocytes and the lymphocytes. So once we have identified the difference between this, of course, we have to indicate like how they're actually functioning in the body. So in the case of phagocytes, they are the ones who are capable of engulfing foreign matter, so that, or engulfing a pathogen. In that sense, it is not able, whenever a pathogen is going to be engulfed by a pathogen, then it's not able to affect any cells. Okay, so the lymphocytes, on the other hand, these are the cells that are capable of producing antibodies, more specifically in the B cell. So whenever we want to indicate on which, we want to further give detail on the types of lymphocytes, such as the B cells and the T cells, these are actually only required to be learned in the HL part, which is only for HL students. So, okay, so right after this, okay, once we have differentiated the two types of leukocytes, we have to indicate how a phagocyte is working. Okay, so we have to indicate how the phagocyte is able to move towards a specific pathogen, and how it is able to neutralize the pathogen. Okay, so the next area. Okay, so once we have already discussed phagocytic action, then we need to discuss about immunity. So in the case of immunity, of course, this is when a body has already is already able to distinguish any non-self substance from a self substance. So anything that can actually harm the body, therefore there is a necessary antibodies that are going to be produced. So here we need to introduce the terms antigens, okay, and antibodies. Okay, so of course we need to differentiate the two for our students. So Okay, so once we have already differentiated antigen and antibodies, we have to relate how we are able to achieve immunity in this sense. So once we have already discussed their differences, now we can move on to the antibody production. We are able to achieve immunity. Our body is able to achieve immunity. It's because of antibody production. Okay, so we just need to like explain, not in total detail, because the detailed part is actually found in the extended part, which is for HL students. So we just need to discuss how an inactive lymphocyte is going to be activated, okay, in the presence of, okay, how it is going to be activated in the presence of the pathogen. Okay, so once the lymphocyte has been activated, it will undergo cell division. Okay. Okay, and then we call this repeated cell division as the clonal selection, wherein this actually just just production of a lot of plasma cells, or a lot of clones of the original active lymphocytes, which will later on produce the antibodies, which is like Y shape. So yeah, so we have to indicate that each and every pathogen has a specific antibody against it. So in the event that the pathogen is going to be introduced, is going to attack or invade the body, then the next time that it will happen, then the body knows how to react against that pathogen. Okay, that's why we have antibody. In that sense, we achieve immunity. Okay, so the next area that we need to discuss is about HIV. Okay, HIV is one of the most common social medical. How do I say this? So I think it's one of the most commonly occurring diseases nowadays that is actually still uncurable. So there are, we can tell to our students that there are speculations that, or there are medicines that are meant to slow down the viruses, but they are not really prevented on how they're able to mutate. So yeah, so maybe a bit of the background of the HIV would do, okay, and how we need to actually discuss the effects of HIV on the immune system, how the virus itself is able to decrease the number of lymphocytes that is able to produce healthy antibodies. Okay. Okay, so right after the discussing the effect of HIV on the immune system, it will lead to AIDS. So, of course, we have to indicate the causes of AIDS, okay, how it is being transmitted, and the social implications of AIDS. Okay. Yes, actually, this last two parts on the defense against infectious disease about HIV and AIDS is more of like a social awareness part, wherein we are educating our students since they're already adults. So it is actually like a social awareness education, wherein it's a more scientific approach on how the virus is able to be transmitted from one person to another. So that will be it for defense against infectious disease. More of details will be discussed later on in the 12th chapter.